Yes. Hello and welcome to the DCG development update. We are here to give you an update on what we've been working on over the past 2 weeks. And we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please use the live chat below with a Q or a question prefix, and we'll be answering those at the end. So please stick around. Without further ado, let's jump right in and start with Sam and the platform team. The platform team.
Yep. So normally I would say this would probably be a shorter review, but looking at the fact that we have pasta that has entered, I don't know, berserker mode.
I promise I'll go quickly.
It might be a while. So it's only been 12 days since the last review, so 2 less working days. So there's a little bit less. I mean, it's expected, right? There's 20% less than other times. But we've been working on getting 3.0 out, testing on testnet. I'll talk about a little bit about like what we found and just so people know, nothing serious. We found two very small, well, blocking but small issues that we've hence fixed. And yeah, I worked a lot on iOS as well. Got back into that, so we're trying to get that out. So I was helping out on there and also on Dash SPV. Um, yeah, so let's just go on. Lucas, you want to take this slide?
Yeah, hi. So basically, I worked on three main topics in the last 2 weeks. First one was some maintenance, both on the platform, drive, and SDKs, where I updated some deprecated and maintained dependencies. There is an interesting story behind bean code, which just is unmaintained, but the style, how the maintainers abandoned it, is quite interesting story. Basically, they rewrote their GitHub history. They migrated to a different site that is like costing their sources. It's a bit suspicious,
I think
honestly.
I think
yeah.
We have a lot of people that might read into that a little bit more. Any update, any thing on crates.io is immutable. So there is no attack on platform. Let's just be 100% clear. There is nothing that could go wrong.
Yeah, that was my point. But basically, what we did, we did a like fork of last known like trusted version of the sources. So we already have all that information, and we have our own fork that we can use in the future. And we are monitoring the community, and I also did spend some time reviewing the changes and everything that happened there for the last few releases. So previously we were on 2.0.0 RT3 that was out for multiple months, and after it got like marked as abandoned, we migrated to 2.0.1, but we did a full review of the changes between 2.0.0 RC3 and 2.0.1 to ensure it's correct, and we also had to do some adjustments. However, this new bean code will be, and these changes aren't huge, so it wasn't a harsh task, but that new bean code dependency will just be used maybe in 3.1 or even later. We need to wait and see what happens. There are at least two promising forks of the original bean code out there, and it would be nice to have maintained library, but we will just wait and see what happens. So just mentioning that this story looks interesting if someone is interested in stuff like that and why we are talking so much about this Bean code case. Just go ahead, check what happened to the GitHub history. Looks like
Yeah, they kind of lost
looks
their mind,
interesting.
but
Yeah,
it's not.
they wrote something about harassment or something like that. I don't know exactly what was the story, but yeah, the story is something worth reading. And yeah,
I'll save people a little bit of clicks. Basically, they became very political on their project, right? Saying political stances in the project without ever updating the code, right? And then people doxed them, revealed their home address, which made the project maintainer basically say, nope, I'm out. But again, this is just drama. It doesn't actually affect us. The difference also between RC3 and 201 are two changes, and both are, in my opinion, not even essential. Like that, they don't really add much. They're just, a slightly improved, better way of doing things and a debug symbol. But it's not like, even if we were to stay on RC3 or rename RC3 as 2.0 or whatever we wanted to do, there would be no difference. We've been on Bincode RC 2.0, RC3 since launch. It is perfectly stable. Everything is fine. There's nothing really to worry about here.
Yeah, sure. And that was just meant to be short, like interesting fact. But yeah, let's go forward. So second thing is addresses support, which I think we already discussed for a few sprints now. I did some tests of address synchronization. I guess Paul might tell more about that later on, or some. And I just improved this mechanism. I don't want to steal their show, so just let me say that I did that so that we also think nonsense, because yeah, we are missing that in SDK. I added that. And the third thing I'm working on, the big task, is identity reference validation. So it's for v3.1. In v3.1, you will be able to create a document that contains an identifier of some identity and maybe later other objects like contracts, stuff like that. So if you have a document that refers to an identity, we will double check that it exists. If it's not, we will just reject such a document. Of course, it's up to the developer to define the data contract in a way such that it will be required. But yeah, it will be supported. It's in progress right now. Should be tested by me this week. So not such a big task, but okay, I'm doing that. And on the next slide, I also did some work for the RStender-ABCI library, which was also mainly dependency updates. It's not nothing significant, but some improvements in how we handle coding with AI agent, in this case Codex, because it was trying to write outside of the sandbox that it's creating to improve security, and it was like a bit painful when it was working with Codex and platform. The fixes there, and also some small refactoring of error handling in the build process of that library. No changes to the merits, just the build process dependencies. Basically, no logic changes. And that's it on my side.
Yeah, sure. So this is work done by Ivan. He's been working a lot on the JAS Evo SDK as we've been talking a lot about. This slide probably won't interest many people except developers using the JS SDK. We are releasing in 3.0 a much better experience. So, and we're going to be updating the Dash Sync website as well with the new 3.0 methods. So that's in progress. The website. Yeah. Let's go on. Dash Evo tool. Paul?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so this sprint, I continued making many improvements in Dash Evo tool, but I think more significantly, I helped with testing platform addresses. So basically, in like what we were doing was, sorry, in the TUI, we like did some strategy tests. So we would populate the DevNet with like say 300,000 addresses, and then I would use a wallet with like varying amounts. I would use a wallet and basically try syncing a varying amounts of addresses between like 1 and 100, and seeing how like the number of addresses in platform would affect the sync time for varying amounts of addresses being synced. And it, yeah, I mean, the results were great. I think the number of addresses like in platform, whether it's 100,000 or 1,000,000, hardly affects the sync time, but like the number of addresses kind of expectedly, like if you're trying to sync one address versus 100 addresses, I think one address is like a couple seconds, like 3 seconds or so, but 100 addresses is only like 10 seconds. So I mean, as you saw in like the demo, like what was it, 1 or 2 sprints ago, where if you need to sync an address balance on like Bitcoin using SPV or something, it's taking hours. So I mean, 3 versus 10 seconds is nothing in comparison. So it's really, really cool, exciting feature. But yeah, besides that, some work in the TUI as I was like doing the strategy tests. I was able to make some improvements there. I added ZMQ there. In Dash Evo tool, one of the big things I spent time on was adding fee estimations for all operations. So you can know approximately how much, like before you create an identity or create a document or something, you can know approximately how much it will cost. We use like the real hard-coded fee values from platform, and like it's as detailed as it can be. So it takes into account like how much data is in your document, and stuff like that. Like if you're registering a token, how many keywords you have, all that stuff. The reason why we don't just tell you what the fee is up front is because it's not there's things that can happen. It's not deterministic, basically. And that's the same with any other blockchain, really. Yeah.
The fee
What else?
the fee is deterministic, but it's based off of the state.
Yes.
So unless you have the entire state, you don't know what the fee will be. But it is deterministic.
Exactly. But also like it can change. I mean, we can talk about it later, but it can change. Like if you estimate it now, it can change in 10 seconds too. And
Yeah, because the state might change.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Identity discovery from wallet. So now if you import a wallet, uh, you can basically check a box to say you want to import all the identities. Uh, like you want to search for identities associated with this wallet and just have them imported automatically. That was a feature request by, I think, Hilawe. Um, yeah, I added comprehensive test coverage as well. So hopefully that will catch bugs before we release more in the future. Yeah, and other minor fixes, dash pay screen improvements, and this refresh mode enum for wallets in dev mode. So you can choose if you're in dev mode, like whether you want to sync platform addresses, you can do like the full sync or just the terminal sync or sync only core, stuff like that. That just helped me with testing and I decided to keep it. Yeah. So going forward, we're going to do a release probably soon. Not it won't be V1. V1 is waiting for SPV, but it'll be like 0.9.4, I think. If you use that and you find any bugs or have any suggestions, please put them in GitHub issues. I'm going to be paying close attention to that stuff so that we can have a as good, as positive reviews as possible on the V1 release.
Can we
Thanks,
move
Paul.
forward?
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Coughing fit. So in version 3.0, what did testing reveal on testnet? We found two issues. The first issue was that compact addresses blobs were too big. Well, they could be too big if we were pushing tons of addresses. The compaction would make these blobs that were maybe I think like 150 kilobytes is what we saw. But GroveDB had a proof limit, so the data was stored correctly. But when you asked it to prove it, there was a proof limit of 64 kilobytes for values. So we removed that limit in a backwards compatible way. Basically, if the values are bigger, we we basically just say that they're bigger. And that's all been merged in. There was also another problem with big compact address blobs. Clients generally sorry, can't query something so big if the thing is like 32 megabytes and you're getting back the response. I think web clients complain and or Tonic complains. I forget, some library had some issue. So we also are limiting the querying to 25 compact address blobs at a time. Users should not see any difference. This is more of a internal change, but things that needed to get fixed for version 3.0. So as you can see, like the things that were found on testnet, they're very minimal. But yeah. So next slide. Next slide. Oh, there we go. So what's left? So these were what was left 12 days ago. So basically for each item, I said what happened. So more DevNet testing. We're finished the DevNet testing, so that's done. Blast client sync testing for recent addresses, that's done. We moved to testnet testing, that's done. Make sure WASM and iOS SDKs are feature complete for Blast Sync. I'm currently doing that, and that's in progress. And I upgraded the iOS SDK to the latest version of Rust Dash Core. That's also done. So we are very, very close to releasing 3.0. We just about an hour ago published 3.0 RC3. that we are going to push on testnet and do one last pass to make sure that, recent changes didn't break anything. Oh, I think there's actually something else that is in 3.0 that was merged in today. A collaboration between Latte and Yvonne around certificates. So I believe that 3.0 Dashmate will have Let's Encrypt certificates as well, which should be a big relief for a lot of people. Okay, let's move on to mobile SPV teams. So
This one is for me.
Kevin is sick, so
Yeah. Okay, well, I will talk for Kevin today. This is Kevin's slide, and he was this through last week. He was mainly working or continue working on the sync rewrite. It's about 90% complete with ongoing work on performance improvements, code quality, and seeing API adjustments to make the change smooth with the current API. He also worked improving network communication, simplified how blocks were being processed, implemented parallel filter matching, and drop Unix clean up some code, including Unix integration test and other that code that is over the code base. And also added a couple of methods that improves improves communication with the storage to retrieve headers and information we often need and parents that are repeated a lot. That would be for Kevin. For me, I finally merged a lot of test suite improvements. Enable, well, as I said in the last stream, I enable previously ignored tests and made code more reusable and remove the redundant ones. So that's all merged already, if I'm not mistaken. I'm currently working on updates in systems such as configuration, error handling, and checkpoints to make things more robust and simpler. I have some work on configuration because I broke a little bit the FFI, so I have to take a deeper look at it. But that's something that is coming soon and will make our life easier. I'm also studying how to improve the network layer and how peers are being managed. Right now, there are some issues where peers are not being discovered correctly, or we are always asking for data to the same peer. So something we have to work on. There are some changes that are coming with the sync rewrite, so it's kind of hard to make progress right now without breaking coming changes. So things are slow from my side, but yeah, once the sync is in, everything will go much faster. And now with Sam working also in the mobile, in the iOS SDK, will be easier to update everything and to detect new issues. What else? Yeah, I made minor changes to ensure to different systems in the code base follow the same patterns. Not much of a deal. It's more things that benefits us, the developers. Also added by request a small feature that allows configuration to be built from JSON. This allows to recycle files. Also something that we will use internally to speed up our testing process. And yeah, more cleanup in the code base. That would be everything from my side and Kevin's side.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Right. Thanks, guys. So on Android, we had a decent amount of stuff. We focused mostly on the release work that was going out. We had some issues with some transaction status, which is still being worked on. The CSV export. There was some problems with CoinJoin transactions that were being dealt with. Further improvements with sync. This one was adding a sync start date, which we already had in the rescan process, but not in the restoration process. So that was added or is being added. And then coming up, or sorry, in the last release, we had our lost password fixes taken care of, and then the investigation regarding a reverse sync feature that was finished. Again, that's just an investigation to kind of determine next steps. We still have a few more internal discussions to have on kind of finalizing direction for that. And sync start date is twice, but they're both in progress, so that's good. For iOS, been working on improving the logging for Dash Sync. That was going through is going through still some final testing. And then on Dash Wallet, some missing transactions we thought might have been due to some sync interference, but it's unclear now. We can't reproduce the original issues. But we did make some changes to try to clean up the code in certain areas to prevent it from happening again. I'll call it an issue. It technically was intended when it was implemented years back, but when you did a screenshot of the backup passphrase screen, it would reset your wallet. And we removed that in certain areas, but missed it in one, so that was fixed, removed. And then we had just an incorrect support message for piggy cards on error message, and then we released 8.5.2. Yeah, so that's it for mobile. Well, my part.
Welcome.
There's another part in iOS of the stuff that me and Juro did. I've been working with Juro. He started on Friday. And he only had a half day on Friday, so he really just worked a day and a half so far. So not crazy amount on his side yet, but he did start working on integrating Platform v3. That's his first task. So he's integrated Platform v3 queries and added Platform v3 state transitions. We have a list of tasks that are needed to get iOS out. But once again, like Dash SPV is the blocker here. So we need to get that to a working position before everything can. I mean, we're doing we'll be working on everything else basically, and then once that's ready, and we can hopefully like do that at the end. But so we're not completely blocked right now. There are other items. One thing for me was integrating Blast Sync into iOS. That's platform address sync. And that proved more difficult than I thought, mostly because to do it with the right architecture, I needed to modify how platform payment accounts work in the wallet. And so I spent some time on that. And we're very close to having it ready in iOS. I just decided to pause work on that to go in and fix the platform issue so we could release 3.0. But I'm pretty sure that I'll have the Blast Sync working by sometimes this week. Not sure when, but also a lot of improvements to, the platform wallet that we're going to be using inside of the iOS app. Yeah, so just there's actually probably a lot of more items that I worked on that I haven't added here, But these are the big ones. There's a lot of stuff over like more architecture and refactoring and cleanup, and like for example, I changed how the front page looked because it was getting too encumbering. I added the ability to add accounts. Like for example, if you have a BIP44 account, but you want another account in your wallet, maybe one account is for work and one account is for home and one account is for your Masternode rewards. There are multiple. I'm sure people have used multi-account wallets, especially like, in hardware wallets. So added that ability as well in the iOS SDK. So yeah, it is coming along. So that's it for mobile. Core team.
All right, awesome. So, main things on core, a couple of things were done. More so, there are a couple of bigger things that we're focusing on. Constantine began working on extended addresses. He's going to take that over from Kitty Whiskers, and Kitty Whiskers is working on integrating Grove DB into Dash Core. Since I've been busy with some other things in the past couple of weeks, we kind of reorganized where some effort was going to make maximum progress here. We did get some nice backports done. We had a couple of refactors completed related to kind of deglobalization and uh, improved architecture, basically segregating out, right? I might have talked about this previously, but segregating out active code and like passive code, right? Having stuff that touches the network be its own thing and stuff that just is consensus its own thing. A lot of the LMQ code as it was written was very closely coupled, and being able to separate that out is very, very nice. All right, so we can move on to the next slide here. You can see some backport progress. I think V25 was there are I think two sets of two sets of PRs, probably 10 or 15 or 20 of them that got merged in this last period. Moving on to the next slide. These were the merged PRs, a couple of chore cleanups for copyright stuff, um, backports, resolving some dependencies and some improvements, and we can move on to the next slide. So back to hackathon-y stuff. So I'm going to go through this pretty quick, no interactive demo, but Yapper updates, a thread. So, okay, there are two links to it. You can use either one. Anyone can host their own, right? It's decentralized. That's the point. So yapper.pr is hosted on GitHub pages. Yapper.thepasta.org is hosted on Cloudflare pages. You can use whichever one you prefer. It doesn't matter. You could run your own. It's very, very easy. It takes like 3 commands to have your own version up and running, right? Okay, on to features. Notifications and like social graph improvements. You can see on the right-hand side UI for the notifications flow. You'll get notified if someone follows you, if someone mentions you, that kind of stuff. There are some improvements here that I would like to bring out, but they require some changes in other parts of the contract. That'll probably come in the next period, but who knows? That will have stuff like notifications for when someone replies to you, notifications when I think that when someone likes your post. So there's some opportunities there. Building it out in such a way that is not spamming platform and is actually efficiently queried, right, is kind of difficult at times, and we have to redesign some of the contract to support that. So this is the notification UI. We can move on to the next slide. So a bunch of updates. You can have multiple usernames, better username registration. It lets you register multiple. It shows you when they're contested. The profile was completely overhauled in a new document for that. You can set pronouns, add payment addresses, social links. You can set an NSFW flag, even though that's not exposed on the UI really yet. But we don't really use that flag for anything, but you can set it. I think you can set a banner in the profile. I don't think we use that in the UI yet. We have a profile migration to convert your old profile into your new profile, since they're a different contract. Right, that's one of the challenges with a decentralized system is the maintainer cannot migrate your data. You own your data and you're responsible for it. And so if something changes in the code base or the contract, we might give you a migration flow, but ultimately you're the person that's actually moving your data and handling it, right? Inline, better profiling, editing, some profile validation stuff, better displaying on the UI in various places of like DPNS versus profile name versus identity ID, making that more consistent, as well as a QR code pop-up for tip addresses on your profile. So we can move on to the next slide here and you can see some examples. So this is Joel's profile. You can see on the left-hand side, his pronouns are kitty, cat. He has 11 usernames. TDL is his primary one because it is his shortest contested username. He has a bunch of info kind of linking him to other platforms. And then he has 2 tip addresses down there. If you click on one of those tip addresses, it'll pop up a QR code that you can just send to. Very nice, very nice. And also the open in wallet would be like the URI to, well, open the wallet. Okay, moving on. Speeding through this. Whew, okay, post, threads, and feed. A lot of improvements. A lot of improvements to how we handle threading. Replies were improved. Replies no longer show on the main global feed. You can quote and repost people, and all of that works as you would expect. There's a post engagement page that shows you all of the likes, who did it, repost, quotes, etc. for a post. We automatically refresh a little bit in the background to check if there are new posts that came in, and we show you a little indicator that says, hey, there's new posts for you to view. We're caching a lot better the post data so that you get kind of instant navigation when clicking into posts. We improved some stuff related to pagination. We added the ability to command click on a post and have it open in a new tab. And you can control enter or command enter in order to submit a post when you're creating one. We also have image previews now. This goes through a relay server. There's a little pop-up dialog that tells you when you enable these, they're disabled by default. When you enable them, it tells you, hey, by doing this, you are basically telling this server the URLs that you are loading. This is needed because of CORS. Almost all websites will have like CORS blocking. And the way that all platforms kind of get around this, like Twitter and others, is they have some relay that just strips out the CORS stuff and passes kind of the data onto you that should get displayed. So we support basically very similar stuff here. Inline link previews. And like I said, you can disable that if you don't want to, potentially be sending the URLs to some third party. Okay, next slide. So searching, mentions and tags. So mentions have been fully deployed. So you can mention someone, they get a notification, clicking on it brings you to their profile, all that good stuff, everything you would expect there. Real-time searching for usernames in places where you would expect it. If you're replying to a post or if you're searching for a user, you don't have to actually go into the search dialog or know their whole username. It'll give you a little pop-up and show you the people that you might be trying to spell. This is based on a prefix search. Cool. We added cache tag support. This was a feature request that I decided we might as well. Cache tags are basically hashtags. They are the exact same thing. Cache tags are just if you do a cache tag dash, internally that is an on chain that's represented as hashtag dash underscore cache tag. Honestly, I think cache tags are kind of stupid, but it was a requested thing to differentiate the two, and this aligns with other platforms. So that exists now, and it'll be distinct between the cache tag and the hashtag. But anyway, moving on to the next slide. DMs were completely overhauled, new contract, messages are a lot cheaper, read receipts you can opt out of, improved UI with real-time polling, better navigation, fixed duplicate DM rendering. If you had old DMs, they remain on chain. They're not shown in the new UI due to this migration. I don't really want to maintain like querying multiple contracts or anything like that. This is testnet. Expect that stuff will be wiped, right? There's that banner there for a reason. Awesome, cool. Next slide. This is the tip dialog I showed earlier, the QR code for like Dash. This is the ability to tip in credits natively on the platform. You do need to be able to put in your transfer key because you need a different key for transfers than you do for signing stuff. But on every post, on user profiles, everything like that, you can press a tip button, and either you can select other crypto and send them something externally via Dash or Monero or Bitcoin or whatever, or you can tip in credits natively on the platform. If you tip in credits, you're able to attach a post to it, and I'm awaiting some SDK updates that I need to talk to Ivan about more, but we should get some SDK updates that allow us to actually validate that that tip happened. Some updates to like some bug fixes related to balance, but won't get too into that. And next slide. Blocking and privacy. This one's really cool. You have the ability to subscribe to block lists and block individual users yourself. So if I block someone, right now in this example, I blocked XK. If someone is following my block list, which actually I think they are, so I should probably unblock XK or Joel will stop seeing him because I think Joel follows my block list. But if I block someone and Joel follows my block list, Joel will not see posts from XK. This allows us to have a improved kind of decentralized moderation where the user chooses who their moderators are. And right, that's obviously very, very cool. The way that we do this, it would be very annoying to have to fetch every single time. Say you're following 50 block lists, right? For every single post that you load, we don't want to be making 50 queries. So what we do is kind of the first time you load up, we do one query fetching a Bloom filter for all of the block lists that you are looking at. And that gives us a probabilistic kind of guess as to if a user is blocked or not. And so, 9 times out of 10 or whatever, 99 times out of 100, I forget what the exact ratio comes down to, your client will say, nope, this person isn't blocked by any of our block lists, and you can just be done there. If one of them comes back with a positive result, or like a potential positive, like a match against the Bloom filter, then you query that specific block list on that specific user, and you get back a final true result. This allows us to have, it basically makes this more sustainable, scalable, cheaper fee-wise, better querying. If we needed to do individual queries, it would be a lot more kind of it would just be slower. So there's a way to make things a lot more performant by using Bloom filters. Very, very cool, very fun. You can follow block lists. That's pretty much the whole deal there. Cool. Performance and infrastructure improvements. A good chunk of work was put into improving performance via improved caching, improved using cache data, improved pageant. Basically, a lot of it was improving the time to first render. So if you think about it, right, we get all of the posts, and then for the post, we get all the likes. Well, we can render the post before we have the likes, and then we can lazily fill in the likes once we have it. Same with avatars, same with, other profile data. We can kind of fetch the posts, display them, and display basically a blurred out version of the data that will be and then once we actually have that data, we set it. So this makes the app feel a lot more responsive and better, even though, it's still taking some time to get all of the data. Okay, next slide. So a lot of code quality and cleanup stuff. We removed a lot of dead code, removed a lot of cruft from early days where when stuff that was never used or not needed anymore. Just improved and cleaned up a lot of stuff. Consolidated logic where possible. We want to make sure that this code base is sustainable and we're not just growing it forever and making it more and more difficult to work in. So spent a good chunk of time on that. Moving on. Various UI UX improvements, things like the improved composed dialogue. I didn't even really talk about that. You can now bold stuff. You can make stuff italics. That whole dialogue was completely reworked in this period. The development banner was kind of simplified. We added some GitHub links. We added dark mode support. We added a powered by Dash platform thing. So we adjusted the homepage to have the top contributors kind of shown off there. So much stuff, so much stuff. And moving on to the next slide here, you can see the homepage. So, whew, that was a lot. I tried to be quick. So, a lot of stuff is going on here. I'm working on some cool improvements right now that I don't want to talk about yet, but we'll probably do a wipe of posts and whatnot in the relatively near future. That might even include like wiping follows. We're going to do some kind of reorganization to how the contract works, and we're going to bundle that with some new features that I'm working on. So expect that will probably come. And guess what? The top banner says that data may be reset. So, but guess what? Because it's decentralized, if you don't want to do that, you can just fork Yapper where it is today and you can use it forever. It's your data. You can use whatever front end you want, but mine will be moving to the new contract. All right, that's Yapper. Yeah.
So I have a question, Pasta.
Yeah.
When did you discover how to clone yourself?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because that's like the work of 40 people right there.
Yeah.
Or like that's really very, very, very impressive.
It's been a busy what's it been, 12 days since the last update on here?
I don't know. You must be working around the clock. I don't know. I've I've I I don't know if I've ever been that productive. I'm sure I have, but like that's crazy. So really amazing work. Very sure everybody is very excited. And it also kind of like goes to show that all it really takes is somebody who's motivated. Because when you started this work, or like even did you really know about like how indexes worked or how the inner working? I mean, you probably still don't really know that much about the inner workings of platform, do you?
No,
Probably
not
better,
really.
probably better than
And
a random person who starts, but
yeah, no, I've certainly had more exposure over time through, DAG calls and whatnot. But overall, my like primarily when I have a like issue or thing or something where I'm like, can platform support this? Can it do this? I have to think about it like the indexing side of things. But if I have like a thing where I'm like, can platform find if this is some feature, right? I have Claude in the platform repo, and a lot of times I ask it first, and if it's something where it says no, that's not possible or something, I'll think about it a little bit more, and maybe I'll talk to you about how we can improve it. But that's been very helpful to like figure out kind of what platform supports by having it in the code base and um, looking at it directly.
yeah, that's just great.
Thank you very
Well
much.
done.
Well done. Congrats. Let's move on to the questions. Yeah, even coming up with the features you delivered, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, like
just to figure out what to build.
If you were in a big company, right? Just figuring out what to do would have been like
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
So in like 2 weeks, you've done the work of, oh yeah, let's assign a team of 20 to do these features. Let's have this meeting, that meeting, that meeting, and you just did it. And shit,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say anymore. He's gonna ask for more. He's gonna ask for a raise.
You said I was working like 20 people, is that right?
Oh shit. Oh no, guys.
All right. Let's move on to the questions. Has DCG explored adding IPFS pinning module to platform for large file storage?
Yeah, no.
Well-
I'm gonna take this because Sam will probably add something to it. But we have a lot on our plate right now with 3.1 improvements for making platform more practically usable and better queryable. There are a lot of like Yapper has been incredible as a usable experimental QA product where we have found a lot of use cases that are important to developers and need to be supported better that you can do right now, but they're a little hacky. They probably won't scale amazingly. And so we're kind of going to focus on those improvements for the most part for 3.1. IPFS pinning is interesting, but it would be a very, very large task. Sam might, want to add more to that. And there's a lot of complication there, and there's also a lot of potential risk there. Ultimately, even if everything is encrypted and sharded, you can still say from a someone can still find that this node is who is hosting this encrypted piece of information for this content. So there's some risk there, and frankly, we are busy enough working on other things.
Pasta, I definitely know what IPFS pinning is. That should not be ever brought into doubt. But for the dear community members that don't know what IPFS, I know what IPFS is, of course, but what is IPFS pinning?
Yeah, I think the question was more rooted around would Dash support large file storage in a decentralized way rather than directly IPFS pinning. But IPFS pinning is one way to do semi-decentralized kind of block file storage or content-based file storage. So it's a way to store larger files in a way that is
Yeah, that I know, but
decentralized and
I mean,
accessed.
what's to stop somebody, for example, in Yapper to have a document where with an IPFS link?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
so
mean,
I think the feature request was more about having like master nodes automatically pinning stuff or something like that.
well, maybe not. Maybe they just want that feature. Like, for example, you have a video on IPFS, right? That you want to share, and you want to link it into Yapper, because I think right now that's doable, right?
Yeah, that would actually be like quite kind of easy. I had a branch earlier where I had uh like built-in JavaScript support for IPFS and getting stuff over IPFS. I found that there wasn't enough of a use case there quite yet to merge it in, but like having IPFS support in the front end is not hard. So that someone could send an IPFS link and have that rendered or that kind of thing.
Yeah, we just have to be very like careful because, people can post IPFS content that has nothing to do with Dash, right? And then regulators take it down, but it's
Just
not
as
even
links.
hosted on the Dash blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
By the way, we as DCG cannot take anything off Dash blockchain. Just if for anybody wondering that thing, it's just that people might think we can.
All right. So it's a shout out from Joel, I believe. Are there any current or former DCG C++ devs that have spare capacity for paid work? DM me if so. All right.
Huh.
And see what Odysseus is up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joel, if you want, you can reach out to him.
Reach out
I
to
don't know. I
Odysseus.
think he still has his other job, but
Yeah, maybe. What is the best secure way for a Dash Pay user who doesn't have credit transfer keys to derive their platform keys from their seed phrase and register the missing transfer key?
normally Dash Evo tool should do this. The iOS wallet will be able to do this once it's released. I'm sure the Android we can add it in the meantime until like we get the new thing in too. Brian, do you know anything about key management on the Android wallet?
Yeah, this has been brought up before. It's really just a capacity thing. We do have it in our backlog to add it to the registration process.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I see no further questions. So thanks for being here, joining us today, and hopefully we see each other in 2 weeks.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right. Thank you guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.